Welcome to this session on contracts. In this session, we'll look at a few problems based on the ingredients of a contract, which means what are the key things in a contract. Okay, let's go to the question straight away. Question 1. The principle. Where both parties to an agreement are under a mistake as to a matter of fact essential to the agreement is void. What does this mean? Let's look at the key things. When both parties to an agreement are under a mistake on a matter of fact essential to the agreement is void. So the key thing is both parties are under the mistake on a matter of fact essential to the agreement, then the agreement is void. Let's look at the facts of the case now. Sudhir is a bike enthusiast, contacts Vinod for buying an old SG Classic. Vinod is unable to procure one and tries to pass off a SG Road King as SG Classic. Sudhir is so impressed with the bike that he signs the deal and pays the amount after the very first test ride. 2 months later, miffed with the utterly low mileage, he takes the bike to a mechanic who informs Sudhir that he has been riding a Road King all this while. Sudhir sues Vinod, but Vinod claims that the agreement is void. The outcome of the case hinges on whether the agreement is void or not. So we have to check out whether the agreement is void or not based on the principle given. Now, what were the critical components of the principle? One was both parties. Second, are under a mistake. Okay, on something which is essential to the contract. Then the agreement is void. Okay. Now let's look at the fact that it is a SG Road King and not SG Classic. Was it essential to the contract? Yes, it is essential to the contract. So he wanted a SG Classic. He was given a SG Road King. So it essential of the contract has been breached. There is no doubt about it. Okay. Are both parties are under mistake? No, not both parties. Okay. So because both parties are not under a mistake, only one of them is, so it cannot be a void agreement. The three key conditions: both parties should be under mistake on something which is essential. While we are referring to something which is essential to the contract, but here both parties are not under mistake. Hence, it is a valid agreement. The agreement is not void. Let's look at the choices. The agreement is void, incorrect. The agreement is not void should be the correct answer. Choice C, Vinod is guilty of cheating, hence should return the sale amount to Sudhir. We have to just answer the question. This may be the right answer based on some other principle or based on common sense. But we have to answer this question, is the agreement void or not? So this answer, choice C, which seemingly looks correct, is not the correct answer because it is not in line with the principle. And it is talking about something which is beyond the scope of the question which has been given to us, which is the agreement void or not? Choice D, Vinod is not liable to pay anything to Sudhir since Sudhir has ample opportunity, again out of scope. Based on the principle given, the correct answer has to be choice B. Question 2. An agreement entered into by a minor is void ab initio. Let's look at the explanation. The term void ab initio, which means to be treated as invalid from the outside. I am sure most of you know the meaning of the word ab initio. Ab initio is from the beginning, right from the start. So if something is void ab initio, it means from the beginning it was void, or the agreement did not take place, or the agreement was not there in the first place itself. So void ab initio is void right from the beginning or from the outset. Let's look at the facts of the case. Anita, a minor, contracted to sell her house to Babita. Anita received 15 lakh rupees as consideration and refused to deliver the possession of the house. She spent the entire money entertaining her friends. So Anita is a minor. What does the principle say? Agreement entered into by a minor is void ab initio. So the agreement did not take place in the first place. Let's look at the choices now. The agreement between Anita and Babita is valid and Anita has to deliver possession of the house. Incorrect, because Anita is a minor. Because she is a minor, it was an agreement which was void ab initio. Okay. Choice B, the agreement between Anita and Babita is void and Anita is not legally bound to return the money. Let's look, this could be the correct answer. We'll come back to it and look at the other choices before that. Choice C, though the agreement is void, Anita has to return Babita's money. Almost the same as choice B, but the difference between B and C is B says Anita is not legally bound to return the money. C says Anita has to return the money. Choice D, none of the above. This is incorrect. Your answer is either B or C. Now let's look at choices B and C in light of the principle. If it was an agreement which was void ab initio, that means the agreement never existed. If the agreement never existed, the money paid need not be returned. Okay. So because the agreement was void ab initio, that means the agreement did not exist in the first place. So no money was paid under the agreement, so no money has to be returned. Which means the correct answer here should be choice B and not choice C. Okay. Because the agreement was void ab initio, Anita is not legally bound to return the money. So the correct answer is choice B. Question 3. Principle. The consideration or object of an agreement is lawful unless it is forbidden by law, or is of such a nature that if permitted it would defeat the provisions of any law, or is fraudulent, or involves or implies injury to person or property of another, or the court regards it as immoral or opposed to public policy. Okay. Lengthy principle. Let's look at the explanation. Explanation. In each of the above cases, the consideration or object of an agreement is said to be unlawful. Every agreement in which the object or consideration is unlawful is void. So if the object or consideration, any one of them, if they are unlawful, then the agreement will be void. If either the object or consideration are unlawful, then it is a void agreement. Okay. Now let's look at the facts of the case. M, a litigant, gave B, a judge, rupees 20 lakh to decide in favor of M in a case. What is wrong with the contract? Again, look at the principle. What does it talk about? Object and consideration both should be lawful. In this case, is the object lawful? No. The object is not lawful. If the object is not lawful, it has to be a void agreement. Okay. So let's look at the choices. The contract is valid. No, it is not valid. Choice B, the contract has an unlawful object. Yes, it has got an unlawful object, which is the litigant is paying a bribe to the judge to get the decision in his favor, so it has an unlawful object. The contract has immoral object. No, we will not get into the morality. We look at only the lawfulness. The contract is lawful. Incorrect. Correct answer has to be the contract has an unlawful object. Question 4. Principle 1. Two principles. So let's go through both the principles. If a person was forced to give his consent as a result of use of illegitimate force, the consent is said to be obtained by coercion, and the contract so created would be a void contract. Okay. Principle 2. Illegitimate force means doing or threatening to do an act contrary to law. Okay. So if a contract or consent has been obtained by coercion, or by in this case it says by illegitimate force, by under threat, then it is said to be contrary to law, and hence the contract will not be valid. It will be a void contract. Okay. This is what the two principles together say. Let us look at the choices, the facts of the case now. T wanted to purchase a new motorbike, but his father had imposed certain conditions which T had to fulfill before bike would be purchased for him. One of these conditions was T will take a bath every day and improve his test scores in school. Okay. He was not able to satisfy the first condition, though he did improve his test scores. Father refused to purchase the bike. T said he had fulfilled the most important condition of improving the studies, and other conditions were not important. Father still refused. T now threatened to run away from the house, never to return back. Overwhelmed by fatherly love, the father agreed to sign a contract saying the bike would be purchased for T 2 months down the line if T agrees not to run away. If T signed the contract, what is the legal status of the contract? Legal status of the contract, again we have to look at it in light of the principles given to us. Okay. What does the principle 1 say? If a person is forced to give a consent as a result of illegitimate force, the consent is said to be obtained by coercion, and the contract so created is a void contract. Was this consent obtained by let's say coercion? Some of us would say that it was under the threat of the child running away that the father accepted it. Okay, there is no doubt that the father accepted it under the threat of the child saying that I will run away from house if you don't get me the bike. So to that extent there's some logic, but let's look at the principle 2. Illegitimate force means doing or threatening to do anything contrary to the law. Is running away or leaving the house contrary to the law? No, it is not contrary to the law. So while it was in a way obtained under some kind of a pressure from the child, that pressure or threat of running away is not contrary to the law. If it is not contrary to the law, it is a valid contract. Okay. Now let's go to the choices. It is a valid contract as T has fulfilled all the requirements laid down to get a bike. Okay. Choice B, it's a valid contract as T has fulfilled all the most important requirement to get a bike. Choice C, it is not a valid contract as T has coerced his father into signing the contract and threatening to run away from the house. We have just discussed that it is a valid contract. Okay, so the answer has to be either choice A or B. Let's look at choice D now. C is incorrect because the running away from house is not illegal. Leaving home is not illegal, so there is nothing wrong with the contract. Choice G, it is a valid contract because the consent of father is not a result of coercion and thus free. Okay, so this should be the answer. It is a valid contract because consent of the father is not a result of coercion. Okay, please understand, we have to look at it in light of the principle. Well, let's look at choice A and B again. It is a valid contract as T has fulfilled all requirements to get a bike. Which conditions? The only condition he has to fulfill is that he will not run away for 2 months. Now, many of us might get confused with choice A and B, but in a way, choice A and B are talking about those two initial conditions of having a bath and improving this course. That story is over. That story is over. Please don't get confused with what the original story was. The original story was that he will improve the test scores and have a bath regularly. Though the child improved test scores, did not have a bath regularly. So it was so the conditions were not fulfilled and the father did not get a bike. Now the new situation has arisen where the child is saying, if you don't get me a bike, I will run away. The father says, okay, if you don't run away for 2 months, I will give you a bike. So this contract of getting a bike if the child does not run away for 2 months is the contract we are talking about, and that contract is valid because the consent of father is not a result of coercion and thus it is free. So the correct answer here has to be choice D. Don't get carried away or don't get bogged down by an original piece of data. That data was there, that story is over, new story has emerged, and as usual it is only on the basis of the principle. We have to compare the data based on the principle and based on the question asked, and not allow any extraneous data or knowledge to derail us into getting something else. Okay. Hope this clears the basics of contracts for you. In subsequent sessions, we will be taking more questions like this.